Hey everyone, welcome back to my reading response series. Today we are talking about David Hume's Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion. It's a philosophical dialogue. Basically, it's a conversation between characters that he wrote out where he's exploring big questions about God, reason, and the limits of what humans can truly know. So the story features three characters. You have Cleanthes, who believes that we can reason our way to God through the order of nature. Pretty simple. Then we have Dema, who thinks God is totally beyond anything our minds can grasp. And then you have Philo, who's basically the skeptic of the group, who spends most of the book questioning everybody's assumption. He's kind of like that friend that when you're having a conversation, that they either kind of butt into a conversation that they weren't supposed to be in, or they're putting so many opinions in that you want to sit there and go, can you please be quiet for a minute? But they all work together really well to basically explain these things to me in a very entertaining way. He In the book, he's dealing, like I said, with philosophical and theological questions about whether human reasoning can prove God's existence or not. And if so, what kind of God we're talking about. Hume uses this dialogue really to challenge the famous design argument, which claims that since the world looks designed, there must be a designer of some kind. Which it reminds me of whoever came up with the clock idea, that the watchman's theory, or watchmaker's theory, that when you look at a watch and it has all the different designs in it, there obviously had to be a designer for that. Basically, the big questions that he's asking here are, can we reason our way to God? Does the order in nature prove anything about God's nature? And are our minds capable of understanding such a divine being? The major claims kind of go like this. Cleanthes argues that the universe is like a machine, complex, ordered, finely tuned, so it must have an intelligent maker. Dema, on the other hand, insists that God is beyond all human categories, so any comparison to humans is basically disrespectful. And then you have Philo, right in the middle, who argues that we never seen a world being created, so we can't really know what kind of cause produced it. Which, I mean, he's right to an extent, but at the same time, again, like I said, he's that best friend that you kind of go, can you be quiet? Hume supports these claims through analogies and reasonings where he's constantly insisting that we can only know what we have direct experience of, which leads him to question whether any natural theology can be certain. So, talking about what I actually thought about his works in his arguments and stuff like that, and where it falls short, there was kind of a lot that I bounced back and forth with, but to be fair, Hume makes some really good points. He reminds us that God is not just a magnified human being, and as Christians we actually agree with that. God says in Isaiah 55, 8 through 9, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. So Hume is right to warn us not to shrink God down to a human level. However, where Hume goes too far is suggesting that because God is beyond our experience, then we can't know anything about him from nature at all. Where the Bible actually teaches the complete opposite. Romans 1:20 says that God's invisible qualities, his internal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. In other words, creation really does point towards the creator, which is God. His skepticism also ends up kind of undermining more than just our faith. We can't trust our rational intuitions about design and purpose. How can if we can't do that, how do we really trust reason at all? Even science depends on the belief that the universe is ordered, rational, and consistent. Ironically, ideas that flow out of a biblical worldview, whether they want to admit it or not. Hume says that, we can only know causes through repeated experience, but the origin of the universe is a unique event. And Christianity claims another unique event, the resurrection, that also defies humans' rule about repeated experience. The Bible teaches us in Acts 17:31 that God gave proof to everyone by raising Jesus from the grave. If Hume were right, no unique divine action could ever be known, which really conflicts with both scripture and everyday reasoning. So, while Hume is helpful in challenging skeptic versions of the design argument, I think ultimately he throws out too much. Creation doesn't give us a full picture of God, which he's right, but it does give us a true image. And that's exactly what scripture is affirming and pointing to. So before I wrap up, here's a couple of questions I was left thinking about that I want to leave you guys thinking about. One, if Hume is right that we can only know causes through repeated experience, does that mean we can never know the cause of unique events like creation of the universe or miracles in scripture? Like, what would that mean for Christian faith or even historical reasoning for other events that they can't explain? And then two, if Hume's skepticism about design seems to undermine human confidence in reason itself, if we can't trust the natural sense of purpose we see in creation, how do we make sense of the passage like Psalm 19:1, which says the heavens declare the glory of God? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one, and I will see you guys next week.